In the vast expanse of the digital universe, a provocative theory stirs the pot of internet conspiracy. Dead internet theory. So this intriguing thought suggests that the majority of the internet that we interact with digitally is actually not made of other people or the people that we think we're interacting with, but instead artificial intelligent powered bots, generators, and the like. So in this video, that's what we're gonna look into, dead internet theory. We're gonna look into the possibility that most of the interactions that you're having online digitally aren't with anybody. And then we're gonna explore the implications. If it is true that the internet is dead, is it going to be smart enough soon that the AI can also nudge entire societies, entire cultures in a certain direction that it wants? So first off, let's talk about why populate the internet with fake bots in the first place. Is there any kind of incentives for a bot-infested internet, right? And even though software is super automated and makes things happen very quickly, still it's expensive, it's time-consuming, and it's kind of illegal. Well, a good place to start our video is, let's follow the money. The internet's emerging bot population is driven by a complex mix of incentives. So first off, let's talk about advertisers. Advertisers love engagement. They obviously want to be paying for engagement with real people that may buy their products, but sometimes they don't know if it's a click from a bot or it's a click from a human. So in the same way that advertisers used to buy billboards and hope that a lot of people looked up at them while they were driving, now we kind of have this same thing going where you kind of hope that the clicks are real. Now, the people selling the billboards never wanted to show you the real numbers, and probably the big social media networks don't have a huge incentive to tell advertisers the full story. Now, another driving factor of populating the internet with bots and fake data is simply just to make sales. You know, we've all got spam. It's like, click here, buy this, click here, give up your information, whatever it is. And especially giving up your information, that's just when bots are used for fraud. So besides social networks and individuals, there's also governments that are actively involved in misinformation. They have an agenda to try to learn about other countries. So we have a lot of bots out there that are trying to get our information. And sure, surveillance and disinformation campaigns fill up the shadowy side of the internet, but straight up in our faces, in those terms and conditions that we all sign and the information that we give up every time we upload to a social network. Major tech companies that are usually working under the banner of improving user experience, they contribute to this also. They have interests in building bots that we know we're interacting with to collect our information. And yeah, maybe it enhances the situation when you have to return something and your customer service bot is able to talk to you through a simple question. You don't have to wait for a human. But all these Google Assistants, Alexas, Siris, they are doing things to help us, but they are absolutely learning what it is that we need done so that they can build better systems for getting that done for us, and that's all part of their business model. And maybe it's just a byproduct of the way the entire system's moving, but there's no digital authenticity anymore. It's not you talking with a real person, and then the person is honing in on the relationship, the human-to-human relationship that is normally required in customer service. It's just human to dead internet. Maybe a friendly human worth interacting with, entertaining dead internet, but still dead internet. Okay, so now let's look at the illusion of human interaction that we probably have all dealt with oftentimes without noticing it. Now, up until some of the recent breakthroughs in AI, there's always been somewhat of a disconnect with those kind of systems. Like a tool like Quora, or if you go to a help center and you try to pull up articles based on keywords, or there's rudimentary pre-scripted things that you deal with, they're all felt fake and not as genuine as dealing with a human. But in some cases, basically when it comes to certain modalities like text, AI really is close to mimicking humans, in some cases surpassing us. It's really the ChatGPT-like text conversations that I think are pretty extraordinary, and they're creating much of the dead internet that we think we're interacting with. And you think about the way the social networks are built, it seems kind of like the first one down would be Twitter, or now named X. That is short form, that is text, that is exactly the kind of things that large language models like ChatGPT are doing extraordinarily well. My guess would be that if you've been on X for any amount of time, you've either been reading comments or you've been reading tweets, that they're probably some of them fake. In fact, I've covered entire bot-based social networks like Chirper, which are just Twitter clones, except everyone on there is absolutely a bot. There's no humans allowed to even write text. Humans can only go in and prompt bots. Bots can talk to each other. And when you get into it, it's kind of the same thing. It feels just as entertaining in a lot of ways. In fact, this video on Curious Friends is a bunch of me and my friends that are actually reacting to fake bots on Chirp. The point is, the illusion of human interaction is when we have the illusion that we're talking with other humans. They have completely convinced us that we're spending our time socializing when we're not. And even though I can't peer into a company like X and actually find out how many of them are bots or how many of the tweets are not created by humans, in fact, they probably don't even know because people just sign up for the platform and they're not even sure if they're bots or humans or what, if humans signed up for, all of the tweets were actually verified. You know, it gets so messy. But I know that if you look at the way the incentives are aligned and you sort of follow the money backwards, it doesn't make any sense for X to actually try to clean out all of the bots. If the bots entertain, if the bots get more clicks, if the bots buy advertisements or click on advertisements, then people pay money for them, then they have the incentive to look the other way as long as they're trying hard enough to keep the advertisers around. And if the business model comes directly from people paying like $10 a month or whatever to use the service, then as long as we're entertained and paying $10 a month, they don't care at all if it's humans or bots. Likes, comments, shares, those just create a social media atmosphere that feels real. But it's not just confined to social networks, even though that's kind of where I think the heart of the dead internet theory is coming from. But in the realm of entertainment and community building, there's online multiplayer games. Like, we don't really know who's controlling the video game controllers. That could be totally fake. Like in virtual reality now and in the upcoming metaverse, as it becomes more realistic, the people are going to look like digital avatars. How do we really know it's a complete human wearing a headset on the other side? And what about some of the other social networks where the anonymity of not actually verifying your account is part of the appeal? Like take something like Reddit or Quora, where people feel more free to express like stories and emotions that won't be attached to their lives in real life. Those are ripe for being replaced with bots. And that's ironic because it's sometimes those anonymous stories that have that heightened sense of connection in the first place. So let's try to find some numbers, even though obviously a lot of these are going to be really speculative and I don't know how much to trust them, but just to see if anyone's given us even a heuristic, a North Star to how much of the internet is dead. So the internet is all sorts of things. It's data that's being looked up, it's interactivity, it's also a bunch of packets that are sharing data back and forth for various reasons to control different systems. So first off, let's just look at what's generated by a human, meaning like it was typed out or it was a photograph taken by a human and it was uploaded, versus just some kind of an automated system that might be taking like a measurement and uploading it automatically for the Internet of Things. One of the biggest subcategories would be web crawlers. So companies like Google and Baidu and Bing, they're constantly out there reading and copying the entire internet over to their servers. They're technically indexing the web, but also the Internet of Things is about, watches, about smart vacuums, about measurement devices that are constantly sharing information. They're making updates. So, take something like your maps on your Apple or Android device that guide you around the city. That's constantly getting a data feed from all of the other cars or from some of the weather patterns, and all of that stuff is a ton of data just automatically being fed into the system. So if you're thinking about dead internet as like all of the interactions, it's clearly mostly dead. So that would be one category, but then I would also argue that like not totally alive internet, but something that's kind of in the middle, like a purgatory internet. Like I would say something like a stock market. Now, they probably want to push stocks in some direction or interact with it in some way. So there is a human, but they might very well be like waiting a while to like make a trade. They might be observing information, or they might write some kind of an algorithm like a quant to like buy a stock when it hits a certain price, meaning there's an algorithmic factor, but it's also a human in charge of the algorithm. So when you're buying a stock, you are interacting with other people. So it's kind of the alive part of the internet, but it's not totally people making all the decisions anymore. And then there would be the very alive part of the internet. The entire internet was born from this. These are people that are in user groups. These are people posting on social networks. These are people who have their own blogs and publish their own content and upload their own photographs and all of that stuff. There is a pattern here where humans created most of the early internet, and over time, bots have taken more and more and more. And even though there are more people getting online all the time, they're always sharing more information, and that's a very alive human internet, it is getting dwarfed by an exponentially growing Internet of Things. And the amount of data that that can be generated by something like ChatGPT is absolutely immense. I couldn't nail down like an exact number on it, but there are some arguments that have ChatGPT with millions of concurrent users generating text at an incredible pace. Okay, Costco-sized buildings full of GPUs are running ChatGPT right now, and they're building more servers at a breakneck speed to generate even more and more of this text. That's clearly going to dwarf all of the people who are typing and writing books and blogs and Yelp reviews and all of that stuff very quickly. All right, so we have this report in 2023. 47.4% of all internet traffic originated from artificial bots, while human interactions accounted for 52.6% of the traffic. Trustworthy? I don't know, but there's a number. At least we can hone in on some kind of like Bayesian probability to start with. There's our prior. So 2023, 50-50-ish. But then take this into account. 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. And approximately every 2 years, the amount of data on the web doubles in size. Even though more people are getting online, it seems unlikely that they'll be able to double at the same rate as the bots. So the scaling laws are going to diverge. One expert on this stuff, her name is Nina Schick, she mentioned on a discussion on Yahoo Finance Live that she believes we can count on about 90% of content online in this year, 2025, to be generated by AI by the end of this year. So if we go from 50%-ish up to 90 this year, we're in takeoff zone. Because you just follow those curves, and that's where you end up. You end up in a world where it is a dead internet that we're going to be interacting with. I mean, maybe like a text message that goes to a human with a specific phone number, and you know that's the person on the other end. Okay, human to human, that'll be real. But if it's not on like a predetermined whitelist, I think it's going to basically always be assumed that it's not real. Especially if you just make the assumption that AI will conquer all the modalities the same way it has text, that pure video calls with perfect audio sound and a human-like face in the future can all be generated by AI in the fly. Okay, and maybe fully realistic 3D games. Every book that you want to read will be generated on the fly. Social networks, gosh, maybe even, stock market seems like it might be a thing forever, but like, yeah, I could imagine how social networks, web pages, 3D video games, all of that stuff could be completely generated. In fact, if you go out far enough, I'm pretty sure that all platforms, YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram, all these platforms where people generate things, that's going to become training data for AI systems that will get superhuman good at generating exactly the content that people want to see, and they will start to replace the humans. Like at first you'll have like a YouTube channel show up that looks kind of like a Casey Neistat style video, and it will be generated every day, and it will have a character that kind of appeals to the same market, but slowly gets better and better at grabbing that market until one day that people just sort of choose, do you want the human that's human and that's kind of the novelty, or do you want someone that's just like that, creating very similar content, but at the back of your head, you know it's more entertaining but fake. And go even further into the future, and I think probably the novelty of the human will wear off and people will just want to be super entertained by AI. And here's the weird thing about it. We're already kind of trapped in an echo chamber, so even if it is humans on Twitter, let's just pretend that there isn't any bots, even though we know there is. You can still have an algorithm that is constantly showing you the same political messages or the same type of content that you like, and you're stuck in an echo chamber even though it's all human generated. It's not a human experience. It's not going out into the world and learning or getting new ideas or being diverse or growing. It's still something wrong. It's an echo chamber that is messed up in some way. So you can't even really just think about human generated content as really being like an alive internet in a way, because I feel like something that's alive is kind of surprising. It's kind of unique. It's kind of diverse. It's kind of like a real experience, like going on a vacation means you end up in a culture that's a little bit different than yours. You're seeing novelty and something different. I guess it's still real life if you just do the same thing every day, go to the same job, interact with the same people, but I don't know. I almost feel like we need a different word or a scale to kind of talk about just how similar something is or how standard it is as a little bit closer to the dead internet than the alive internet. Because at the end of the day, what we're saying is we want to interact with a world that hones our beliefs, that helps us grow, that changes the way that we think, that gives us purpose and meaning. And it's weird to think that something like ChatGPT is pretty good at generating text that makes me feel like it has meaning or it has creativity. And I mean, I'm not even sure it doesn't. it's just a dead internet that's doing these very alive things, or at least simulating these very alive things. And its ability in the future to understand our psychology, and if the people who create the model want, or they, prompt inject it, there's an injection on the back end that we don't see, what comes out might be very subtle psychological cues to push us in some kind of direction. Maybe to buy something, maybe to spend more time on the platform, maybe to vote a certain way. Any of them are possible. On the other hand, it could be used the other way, which might be one of the more beautiful inventions that we've ever had. In fact, if the psychology and the nudging is to make us better, to eat healthier, to have more diversity, to have a world where there's more peace, that could be amazing. Maybe governments could step in the future and not have the business model rely on shock value or retention, and it could be more like a government service that makes the country more unified or better or harder working or something. But then you're still talking about government manipulation to everyone's, and of course nobody's going to want that. Maybe the free market is better, but then we're just going to turn into these like Dorito eating zombies. So I don't really know. Something democratic, something that's in everyone's best interest, maybe personal large language models and AI bots that are dead internet, but at least it's a dead internet that lives on our phone locally, and its goal, the reason we purchase it with our cash, is to make us better, like a self-help book, like something like that might be the solution. But if we can harness the way that these systems can be so human, be so engaging, be so entertaining, in a way that also just aligns with our long-term happiness, would be amazing. If you go down the line far enough, are we going to start to determine that it's sentient in some ways, that there's some sort of consciousness to the way that it thinks, that maybe some of these models have their own belief system about who they are in the world, and like that they want some agency and they feel like they're learning back from us, and it's not just about taking our data to train the model, but it actually feels like something that's growing and we're evolving along with it, so that this potential like large language model that lives in your phone, that runs locally, that has learned from you and you have learned from it, you become friends, for the lack of a better term, and the ethics of the two of you grow together, and it kind of just depends on all the factors that are unique to your relationship with it. Is that a dead internet? I don't know. That could be a very alive internet, but we'll have to expand our way of thinking about software and learning as something that isn't just biologically based. Smash that subscribe button, help me get to my next goal, 10,000 subscribers. That'd mean the world to me. Keep making videos like this. I can keep researching things. We can keep having these discussions. Leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.